I gave you the right one, didn't I?
They look good. Are they worn or are they supposed to be cool like that?
They're
Like
just
pre-worn, pre-ripped
years
jeans.
of my hands going like.
By like pre-damaged mugs and
beaten
cups
boot.
and shit.
I can see that becoming a thing.
Fine,
We can popularize this on the podcast.
relict cups.
Yeah, relative modern cups.
Fender Custom Shop relict cup.
Get these cups woven off. Well, it's Taran Murray's Rank Good Podcast 6.
Wow.
I think. And we got Anton again. We have Mcphee returning for round 2.
Yay.
We have Glen O'Keefe for number 1.
Aye.
Matt's always all over here. He's here all the time. We live together.
He's in it whether he likes it or not.
Yeah.
We can't get rid of that.
And Robin back as well. So hello, guys.
Hey, hello.
Official on air hello.
Yeah.
You know, act like we haven't already been talking for like an hour.
Yeah, we stayed silent.
The whole time.
No talking until.
Just save it up.
Mid conversation, we shut it down, and oh, we could talk about that on the podcast.
Yeah. Save it for the podcast. Well, speaking of what we just got done doing that with is Glenn just brought over some delicious beer that he made from
Yes.
a private stock.
Right. So Anton, you were asking for me to run you through it, I guess.
Yeah.
So me and my girlfriend made this a couple years ago. Can't remember where we tried it. I think it was at like a beer fest or something like that, but I'd never heard of the term like barley wine before. So the idea is that you basically, when you're making beer, you can only use so much ingredients in one batch. Like it'll top out at a certain amount. So you can use, say, 10, 15, 20 pounds of barley in a 5-gallon batch, say. But what'll end up happening is like the yeast can only ferment a certain amount of sugars. And you can only, like, when you're doing what's called the mash, which is the steeping of the grains to extract sugars from the grains, you can only reach a certain efficiency there. So you can keep using more grains, but you will only get so much sugar out of it, right? So the way a barley wine works is that you're using a massive amount of grain. You're not necessarily getting like the high alcohol content, but you're getting a lot of the flavor from it. So, like normally you wouldn't get this really strong, malty, alcoholic kind of nice, warming, very fitting, warming beer. But so yeah, from this you're able to do that, but it requires a lot of aging. First when I bottled this, I'm saying first when I bottled it, but about 4 months in, it was still tasting like battery acid. It takes a long time to produce. This also has about 3 pounds of maple syrup in it.
Nice.
So
it tastes really hearty and full.
Yeah, like I don't find you get much of the maple flavor coming through because maple is just 100% fermentable, so you don't really get a lot of flavor from that.
Do you think it'd be a difference if you didn't put 3 pounds maple syrup?
Well, it would, because yeasts have a hard time fermenting certain sugars, depending on the yeast and depending on how much sugar and depending on how much yeast there are and stuff like that. So with maple syrup, it's like 100% fermentable. It's a really simple sugar that yeast can chew on, but they just kick into hyperdrive when they start fermenting it. So that'll actually change like the flavor component of the yeast. So it also helps to dry out because it ferments completely. There's nothing left. So it's just alcohol. Alcohol's lighter than water, so you end up with like a drier finish, like a lighter, thinner beer. Whereas if I didn't use that, this beer would be even more thick and malty and kind of a thicker mouthfeel. So you can kind of use different sugars to produce a different beer in that way, rather than just barley, right?
Cool, man. You said you had to bottle that 2 years ago.
Yeah. It was tasting pretty good like a year in. It hasn't really changed that much in the last year. Like it kind of got to a certain point, and now the change is subtle, and it's probably one of those subtleties that might win you an award at a competition. But I don't taste the difference. Like my taste is not in tune or is not experienced enough to really be like, you know, this is that different. It's this much better because of this. You know, like this slow thing.
Cool. How long have you been making beers for?
I started in Cornerbrook when I lived there, so I've been here 7 years. So I started there right before I moved here, so about 8 years.
Cool, man.
But I just started with like malt extract beer kits, so like pre-made malt in a bag. You just mix it with tap water, boil it, and add the yeast, add the hops, and away you go. It's really simple, but you're kind of very limited. Like, basically, like everything I'm doing now to brew beer that had already been done and packaged, so you don't really get control over the, you know, different variables and stuff, right? So I started with that, and the water in Cornerbrook was just terrible for making beer at the time. Like if you filled a bathtub, you'd be like, who fucking pissed in this bathtub? like seriously, it was that bad. And so, and flavor wise, the water was terrible as well. So you can't really like make a decent beer with bad water. So then when I moved here, I didn't even understand brewing water at the time. I just moved here and started making beer, and it was just suddenly better. I just thought it was, and it was in a way. I just thought it was like the ingredients, you know, or just getting better at something. But it was like the change in the water profile was a big change.
Nice.
To brewing, really. So.
Yeah, I remember the first time I really got to sample a lot of your beers at once was at when you guys dropped the Oceanic album, and you had a bunch of your beer there.
Yeah.
And
that was a mistake.
Yeah. Why do you say that?
Maybe I shouldn't say that.
Okay.
So that was illegal.
Oh, really?
Yes. Doesn't matter. It's done and over with. Everyone survived, but we probably should have did a beer that was like a reasonable person's percentage.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can't remember Brett's buddy.
Oh, some people were
Yeah,
very
that
drunk.
Yes.
that one guy. I can't
Neil.
remember.
Yeah.
Neil. That's
Always.
it. Oh
It's
my.
always Neil.
Yeah.
Okay, well then you can't blame the substance too much.
What?
It
I knew
Well,
it was
that
him though.
was
So
absolutely
anyway.
delicious, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I couldn't drink.
Yeah.
That sucked.
Playing
was
such crazy
It
stuff.
was a great idea.
I had two, so I was quite happy.
Yeah, like I was drinking like a little bit throughout the night. But the thing is like when people go out and drink, like some people obviously have issues with alcohol. A lot of people. So, you know, when people go to like a normal establishment that serves beer, like you can generally choose. You know, a lot of people go out, they won't even drink like nice beers. They're just
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna drink Bud Light, or I'm gonna drink like Cortland's or something that I can like.
Yeah.
I'm able to pace myself through the night, right? So a couple of my buddies were there, and they were just like, I know like one of my friends, he has some problems with like controlling his consumption of alcohol when he gets out around people. Like, and I do as well. Like if I'm sitting around, like I'll just like slam beers if I'm sitting around with people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he gets there. It's like 6%. No, I don't even think. I was like a 7% Doppelbock.
Yeah.
No, 7% double, Belgian double. 7% Belgian triple. Another 8% Belgian triple, and then a 10% quad. And like he, for some reason, he just automatically went to the quad. He's just like, well, if I'm gonna drink super strong beers, and Glen made them, like I gotta try this, right? And he, I don't even think he made it. It's like through our first song, and had to go home.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Gnarly. So is quad just triple and quad just referring to the amounts of liquor in the beer? Or?
Yeah,
What
like
percentage, or-
it is a percentage thing. Yeah, it's generally actually, I shouldn't say it's always a percentage thing. It's you would think it would be like an IPA and a double IPA is usually like an IPA is usually 5 to 7%. A double IPA is usually like 7 to 9%. So, but with Belgian beers, it's not typically like that. You can actually have like a Belgian double that's like 8%, and then you can have a Belgian triple that's 7%. It's actually more of like a stylistic thing in flavor. Belgian doubles are usually like really dark. They usually have like a lot of really dark raisiny plum type aromas and flavors, like dark sugar, almost like burnt caramelized flavors. A Belgian triple sometimes can be a stronger beer or a lighter beer alcohol wise, but flavor wise they're really smooth, and they have some like spicy and phenolic properties and floral aspects, but generally they're easy drinking beer, lighter in color. And then a Belgian quad could be like a light beer in color and then still be 9 or 10%, but usually a Belgian quad is a really strong beer. So
Which one was which was your quad? Alborz, or which one was it?
I think it was past Alborz, yeah. So that's like the longest, craziest
Yeah.
so it seemed fitting. But yeah, it was a cool concept, like beyond like the mistake of like everybody getting shit faced drinking bootleg liquor. Like that could have been really
It sounds like a good old classic East Coast Canadian time. As far as I can hear.
It was a good group of people. Like it's not like any kids were gonna show up and be drinking.
I'm
like,
sure you could swing it like some kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It's in legalese. That's why I can't think of it.
No.
I was gonna say contract. It's not a contract. You
Well,
know what I mean?
it was by donation. Like
Yeah.
if you gave a donation,
exactly.
it was a fundraiser.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, I was willing to stand up in front of a judge and say, "Hey, we were raising money for my friend who's dying of cancer. Like, if you want to charge me, go ahead." Like, I really don't care. Like, I'll take that one. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like the setup was give a donation of $5 and have a beer.
Yeah.
So in that way, it was a party. The liquor laws in Nova Scotia are fucking retarded.
Yeah.
In that way, like it just doesn't make sense. Like some of the rules and laws they have. Like if you're a sports team and you want to tip over a guitar. Oh, are we not paying attention to you?
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're a sports team, you want to raise money for your sports team. You can sell all the liquor you want, all the beer you want, but if you're a band trying to raise money for a band, no.
That's so strange.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. But yeah, the concept of like the 4 Trappist beers and the album called Trappist, it's pretty neat.
So what was the whole concept behind all that? I knew there was one, or I heard there was one, but I don't think I ever really talked with you about it.
Like the album?
Yeah.
Well, it came from like basically just inspiration of looking into the way these monks in Belgium live.
Right, Trappist monks.
Trappist monks, yeah. It was also like I watched. There's an episode of Chef's Table where there's a monk, and I can't remember her name, but she's basically a chef at the monastery, and she has this really natural way of just even tending to her garden. Like if you watch the show, like they walk into her garden and it just looks like it's in the middle of the forest, like, and there's this like really in tune nature that she has with growing certain plants next to each other, and like nothing, like it doesn't look like these beautiful like garden beds where everything's in a row and perfect. It's just absolute chaos, but there's like this beautiful connection in the way that she approaches everything in life, sort of thing, right? Like everything has its place, everything should be naturally placed, and that kind of stuff. So I was watching that, but I was also starting to get really into Belgian beers, Belgian flavors and stuff like that. And once I start reading about these monks in Belgium and the way that they approach